Today what I wanted to do is talk about tools that I use for caring for my plants. One of the things to keep in mind is watering your plants. This is one of the most common things that you will do for them. And so what I do is I will start out with two different saucers. One will allow the water to drain through, and then if I need additional time, I will drain it in another of the saucers. This is a really good way because you don't always know what the draining properties of your soil are or the pots themselves. It might be that when you water your plant, it will drain through immediately and there's no issues. Some of my pots are really not well draining in the sense that maybe they've got small drainage holes, and so I don't want to have them sit for long periods of time in drained water. So that's what the additional saucer is for, just to let the plant drain. The other thing that I tend to do is I will reuse water. I'm one of those people who will reuse the water that drains through and pour it back in the watering can. The water that I'm using is either treated water or it's rainwater. So I just don't want to really waste that water by just dumping it out. I don't know if this is the right thing to do. I've never had issues with it, and so I'm going to continue to do it. So one of the things to keep in mind is the watering can itself. This is an important tool that you will have. This particular watering can, I've had it for probably 30 plus years. This is the watering can I've got at the beginning, and I've just not ever found a watering can to replace it. What I like about this particular watering can is the ability to hold it in different positions. So depending on the amount of water or the plant that I'm watering, I will be able to hold it from different parts of this handle. One of the things I don't like about this watering can is the size of the hole. Sometimes it's not easy to get the water into the can without spilling it. So with succulents, it's important that you water them when they're dry. It's important that you let the water drain. Because of the type of substrate that I use, some of these have rocks, bark, things like that. So it's possible that the water that's in the saucer will also contain small pieces of debris. When I get debris in the bottom of my saucer like this, I do try to pour it into other pots and not pour it into the watering can, but there will be times when it happens anyway. So it's just something to always keep in mind. So I have found that one of the really important tools to go along with this watering can is a straw cleaner or a pipe cleaner that will allow me to get into the spout and just remove any debris. So there's a number of things to think about with these particular watering cans. You know, if I was to design a watering can, I would make one that had ease of cleaning because this over the time has accumulated rocks, perlite, bark, basically just debris from my watering adventures. The other thing that I would like in a watering can is a lid. So after I'm finished watering, I will very often set the watering can aside, and it doesn't have a lid. So I have some concern that it will evaporate or get knocked over and spilled, or it's even possible the cats will stick their paws in there and drink this water, which I don't want them doing, because with the treated water, it's probably okay. It is tap water with water conditioner for fish, but you don't want them drinking rainwater because of the different things that could be present in the water that are not good for animals. It's not consumable water for animals or people, but it's good for the plants. One of the things that I have done is gone online and looked for different kinds of watering cans. And of course, there's pros and cons to every type and style. And sometimes they leak, sometimes maybe they're too heavy, maybe they're awkwardly shaped. So something actually simple like this, I found that this is a really good size watering can for the plants that I have. It's easy for me to maneuver even when I'm not feeling well. So It's got a lot more pros to it than cons. So you really don't have to have anything extremely intricate in order to make a good watering device. So the most important thing to understand about watering cans is, do they suit the size of your hand, the size of your strength, the size of your collection? It doesn't have to be anything really intricate. It doesn't have to have a lot of technology involved. What I would ask is if there are any inventors out there who are interested in designing a better piece of technology in a watering can. I have ideas. I'd like the handle to be able to move to get out of the way. And the other thing I'd like is a cute little lid, something that will stop it from evaporating, stop little paws from going into it. And then the last thing I'd like is, say there was a bottom to it that could come off, and therefore you could really wash the watering can and just like clean it well. And I think that would just be the best case scenario for a watering can, but I've yet to find any really new technology or anything that works better than this that I've had for probably over 30 years. Hi, baby. What are you doing? I tend to be somebody who top waters their plants until recently, when I bought some of the tropical plants that have some of the more barkier substrate. So I bought this some time ago. It's kind of a saucer, but it's a deep saucer, and I can fill it with water. And that's one way that I can water them. So depending the size of the pot, you can fill it and set the plant in the saucer. Or you can set the plant in the saucer and then fill it up to a certain amount that gets it towards the top. I like the fact that there's little lines on it that helps me kind of gauge where we are in relation to the pot and the water. And then I'll let it sit in there for a little bit of time while it absorbs the water, and then I will let it drain and put it back where it belongs. When I bought my Hoya, it's such a big plant that I have been using this bigger bucket. So there's a good example of the size of that plant, kind of fits in that pot pretty well. And then the difference in the size here. That way, if you have a bigger pot with a bigger plant, you can add more water and let it sit in that water and soak up for a greater period of time. So I think these two things are really good tools to have that are related to bottom watering your plant. Since I do it so infrequently, I really only need these two tools, whereas some people who use that more extensively might have bins or tubs or things like that that they put their plant in and let their plant sit. But I only have a few, and I can technically water them one at a time, so I don't need that many, and I don't need anything too extensive. There's a couple of ways that I sometimes do this part. A very easy way is to just fill this up to a certain point. I just kind of visually pick a line on the bucket. And this is where I think we'll maybe reach the top of the pot that I'm going to put in this bucket. And then I will bring the pot down and I'll set it in this bucket. Okay, and that was a pretty good estimation. I want it not to fully submerge the pot, but I do want it to come up to a certain level on the pot so that the plant can soak up as much water as it would like. That's why this bucket is very useful, is because some of my bigger pots will fit in here. And I specifically use it for this plant because what I discovered was top watering it, these leaves became really bendy and floppy, which let me know the plant was not getting enough water. So what we'll do is we'll let it sit in this pot for a period of time. And there really isn't a set period of time. I don't time it or anything. I kind of let it sit in there while I go about and do my other plant chores. And then when I'm finished, I take it out. And I really only do this once a week. And this plant is really thriving on that schedule. So every Saturday, it gets its little bath in the bucket. that's how we do that. Next, I'd like to talk about optional tools. Generally speaking, most tools are optional for your plants. Watering cans, of course, are needed. Water is needed, pots are needed, things like that. But there are some tools that I like to use. I had gathered a number of them, and so I went on Amazon and I found this little tote. I have one by the side of my bed that's got things in it, and so I realized this would be a good kind of tote for plant supplies as well. It's got nice little pockets for different various things, and each one can have a purpose. The front middle one, I have that set for plant debris. As I'm moving through my collection and I'm watering them, I'm checking for pests, I'm checking for dead leaves, I'm checking for overall health of the plant. You will need something to put the dead leaves and debris, and maybe even if you find a pest, you could put it in a bag. Now, I did have it open before, but what you'll find is that it gets really dirty, and I'm not really a fan of that. So just a tiny little sandwich bag, put in that center, makes a perfect little like garbage bag. You can fill that up over time and then throw it out. Another essential tool is tweezers. So I have two different kinds of tweezers. They came as a set. They're nice steel tweezers. They have different purposes that I use them for. This is a nice thick one that can grab and pull. What I find with some succulents is that they have a tendency to hold on to their leaves. Some are very prone to dropping them and they don't hold on to them, or they'll shed them if they're overwatered. Others, as they absorb the leaves, the dry husks stay on the stem of the leaf. It's probably for reasons of, in the wild, protecting it from pests and predators. So a nice sturdy set of tweezers is good for getting in there and yanking out stubborn leaves that want to hang on. The other is a nice thin pair, and they're good for just pulling off delicate leaves that are maybe hanging on, and or getting into places where you need it to get extra tight. So both of these I found to be very useful. They came in a set of 3 from Amazon, and the third one was more of a locking tweezer, and I don't really use that very often. I have my pipe cleaner for my watering can, and I put that in the tote just so it can travel with me. Now granted, I've just got the one room. It isn't like I take it all over the house, but if I expand in the future, this will help as well. But still, I'll grab the whole tote and I'll move around with it. The other thing is a syringe, a needleless syringe. And this is great for pulling up water and then watering small pots or small spaces, and it's, small enough that it can fit in this tote and I can carry it around. The next tool is, you would call it a metal chopstick. I got this from Bonsai Jack when I made some orders. I've made several orders. I've got several of these. They're very useful for creating holes in soil so you can pot plants, for getting into tight areas to pop a plant out of a pot. I really like these. They're very useful. And I put them in the back because of the length of the item. Rather than it sticking out so tall, I can just set it in the back. I do have a cloth. That's a very small cloth, and it's helpful for absorbing water. Now, I didn't find these to be as absorbent as I might have liked. Because they came in such a big pack, I have several. And I'll just put one in there because in that bag goes the metal chopstick as well as one of the saucers. So I have 3 saucers that I carry around, and I use usually 2 at a time, so I can store them here. See, I have several of these cloths. Now, I bought them to be absorbent, and they're not quite as absorbent as I might have liked. I still use them for various things around the plant room, but they're not my favorite cloths, to be honest. Sometimes you want paper towels, so I'll take a couple of paper towels and I'll just set them in here, and that will go in this last row. It's very easy to grab them out if I've made a spill, or if my hands get dirty or something like that. I'll have the paper towels in there like that. maybe just a few of them at a time. And the great thing about paper towels is you can use them repeatedly until they, start to disintegrate. So you're really not wasting a lot, but it's a nice tool to have. One of the things I did is, since these didn't really pan out to be as absorbent as I would like, I do use the paper towels on occasion. And like I said, I do reuse them until they can't be reused. And I bought 2 of these really absorbent towels. These are used mainly for car enthusiasts or car washing or car drying. That's how they're advertised. And I have had a couple of bad spills where I'll accidentally knock over the watering can, and these have been amazing. This was a great investment. And what I'll do is I'll pull up the water and then I'll hang it to dry, and then I can just keep using it over and over again. This is a recommendation, is that you buy either highly absorbent towels or use paper towels. And the last tool I have in my kit is a small pruner. When I saw this at Home Depot, I was so happy with it. It's perfect for houseplants. I just try to keep it clean, and I keep it in my toolbox, and if something needs clipped, it's very easy to use one-handed. I've got very small hands, so this is perfect. And also it's, not a big pruner, so that goes in this pocket as well. Anything else I find useful might go in here as well. I've considered putting my bottle of alcohol in here for mealybugs, but that can stay over on the shelf. I do have a rolling shelf. The whole plan for this rolling shelf was to be able to move around the room and water plants and have the shelf roll with me, but it really has a tendency to stay where it's at. But I do use it for plants and watering and anything that you might need a little shelf for. And then I have a large shelf, and this has got miscellaneous things that don't tend to move around from space to space. I've got my mosquito bits are on there, my water meter's on there, my bottle of alcohol. Sometimes I will have propagations on here. I have a small little vacuum cleaner to clean up spills. I've got some rocks, and I've got some potting soil, and just anything that you could think of that don't need to move around. It can stay on this shelf. And then of course up top I've got some decorations, just things that make me happy. So the shelf is, both decorative and useful. And those are the tools that I use in my daily day-to-day planting. I hope you enjoyed this little look at the tools that I use to take care of my plants. Thank you for joining. Have a great rest of your day. Please like and subscribe. It really does help more than you'll ever know. Thank you. Bye.